Welcome back. Well, yes, those are the people who have joined us in this next phase to focus on partly security and several other concerns. We've got Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, as well as Katch Ononuju, a member of the PDP and an economist. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Mr. Shehu, let me start with you. Several communication that you put out, some of them, they say that, well, this government is capable, they've got the capacity to address the challenges that we face as a country. But we've seen several instances that have raised questions about capacity. So give us further impression of where we are at this moment. Is the government happy with how they're responding to security issues or insecurity issues in the country at the moment?
Thank you for this opportunity. And to say that is the government absolutely happy? The president has said times without number that his expectations are still to be met, which means we are not exactly where we wish to be. However, a fair judgment that can be made of ongoing efforts of the administration is to judge it by the responses that it makes when challenges of security nature emerge. In all countries of the world, there is one form of security challenge or another. The thing then to do is, how do you respond? And yes, the present administration has responded with capacity, with competence, using available resources and the manpower and all of the limitations that come with that. So can we get better? We hope we'll continue to improve. But given these resources available, given the size of the problems, the government is showing, that capacity to cope, and we hope that will continue to get better.
Let's take you down to the recent incidents that occurred in Katsina State specifically, which had to do with the over the 344 Kankara schoolboys. We've had several communication facts. Some are confused as to what really happened, who played what role, because, at some point, the governor of Katsina State did say that Miyetti Allah did help in negotiations. And then we've seen different comments as well, I think from you as well, saying the army played certain role. Could you shed some light on what you know about that situation?
I think that in all of the things that came out at the end of it, we must thank God Almighty for bringing this to an early end, and to say that actually the glory belongs to the nation, and that I don't see much conflict in what people are saying on all of these things. Look, the security services, the army, police, and the intelligence agencies showed good judgment and capacity by promptly responding to the kidnap of those students and locating exactly where those young people were being held. And having done that, they quickly mobilized and surrounded, gated the entire place to ensure that you did not go out and you did not come into that place. So whatever followed after that is just to reap from the gain that has been made. Because once you made sure that the entire place had been surrounded and they had been locked in, now the choice for the army was, should they shoot to get these young chaps out? If they did, there would have been fatalities, there would have been collateral damage. And it would have been tragic if at the end of this saga, that when some parents got their children alive, others were delivered body bags. That's not what the president wanted. So the military, having identified where they were, less than 24 hours after the kidnap, they patiently waited for the process of the negotiation to be concluded. And at the end of it, I think that everyone is happy that it ended the way it did.
Mr. Ononuju, are you of the same impression?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We don't have the same impression. We believed this last episode is the most recent in a chain of episodes in which the government gets itself involved in staged kidnappings, which are used as a ploy to pay the bandits who the government has been using for the purpose of ethnic cleansing for ancestral lands, which has been a historical government's pursuit since President Buhari came to power, as he has begged Nigerians for land and we refused. We see him using these bandits to get lands and periodically paying these bandits through these kidnappings. If the army, as Garba has simply said now, were able to surround where they were and able to hold them down for the Miyetti Allah to negotiate, as Governor Masari said, for the boys to be released, why has the army stayed hands in all these years? I was on this station talking about the dangers in Kankara. I said that last year. I talked about the problems in Maru. I talked about the problems in Basari, in Dutima, in Musa, and all along, government did nothing. And suddenly, Kankara, the same Kankara I have mentioned here twice, based on my work in those areas, government now use Kankara for the boys to be abducted. And what do we have? Money is paid. I've been hearing a lot of things. As I yesterday, I had about £4 million paid for these people to use in continuing to aid and fund their operations. What we are saying is we stand today with Governor Zulum's position that the internally displaced people should be returned back to their ancestral lands. Garba Shehu has no right to tell Nigerians that they do not have permission or clearance to return back to the ancestral lands. I want these things resolved, just like every Nigerian wants it resolved. To tell me that the president is comfortable with the way it is, and that's why he has kept the service chiefs, and because they have agreed to stay hands from attacking these bandits, it's unacceptable to Nigerians, it's unacceptable to my party, it's unacceptable to everybody of good sense who watches this horror continue everywhere. As I'm talking to you today, people from Borno State are spending Christmases in IDP camps. People from Plateau are in IDP camps. There are IDP camps in Abuja. Let those people be returned back to their ancestral lands. That's all we're saying. I believe all these staged kidnappings are simply a process to put money into the hands of those bandits, the terrorists, who Buhari has refused consistently.
Okay, so quite a number of issues that you raised. So we'll get Mr. Shehu to respond to it before we move on to other points. So Mr. Shehu, would you start from the point, first of all, was ransom paid to get the boys out?
All of the leading actors involved in the release of the children, the students, said no ransom was paid. The governor of Zamfara State, who had a policy of engagement with the bandits and leading to the surrender and the renouncement of banditry. So they used reformed bandits to gain access. Repentant bandits, I think that's the word they use, to gain access to those that were in the forest, and they had them released. So your question is, was ransom paid? To the best of our knowledge, no ransom was paid because all the leading actors, Katsina, Zamfara, did say no ransom was paid.
You also heard the part where he says that these are staged kidnappings. How do you react to that?
I think they just be ridiculous because how can anybody do this? Then people must be heartless if they should subject these young people. You have been reporting accounts from young people, these young people kept in the forest, fed once on raw potato and the drips of water for 7 days. See how much suffering they were subjected to. I don't think any decent human being would subject innocent young people to this kind of thing. No, it's ridiculous. Nobody should say this, please.
Well, when you say, Mr. Katch Ononuju, when you say that you had this issue raised over time, and now they are happening the way they are happening, when you raise these issues, to whom specifically did you raise them, and what was the reaction you got?
Inside here on this particular chair, last year, I talked about my work with the UN when I went to villages in Maru, in Ankara, in Ngobe, in Densedawu. I also went to Kankara, and I said on my travel on the Kwaterekwashi Kankara Huntua route, I saw Hausa youths blocking the road in Kankara, in which I asked them what the problem is, and they said Fulani bandits are killing their people and the government is doing nothing. The government, this following day, Garba Shehu released a paper saying that the Fulani bandits I mentioned were actually bandits returning from the east due to the change in weather. I recognize that. He was trying to make it as if those who were in violence in Kankara were headsmen who were returning back from the south at the end of the season. But no, here again, 2 months ago, I repeated about my visit to Damusa, to Basari, to Sapana, to Dusema, and Kankara. Government did not provide that protection in Kankara. So if we have been talking about crisis in Kankara, and government is not there to protect the people, I would not be surprised if the bandits believe that, yes, they can do anything they want in Kankara because government does not care about the Hausa populations who are being subjected to killings, lootings of their property. And let me tell you one thing I have seen, because I've just come back.
Mr. Ononuju,
all these places
not to worry,
where the crisis occurs,
we'll return in just a moment, and then we'll let both of you, we'll get his response, and then you will equally continue. So just hang on. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. Well, Mr. Ononuju, could you go ahead, please?
Thank you very much. As I was saying, I sat on this particular chair when I warned about the crisis in Kankara, and then Dutsima, Musa, Sapana, Basari, and yet the government never thought it necessary to protect the indigents of Kankara. Now they have suffered this staged kidnapping, which is similar to the game you saw in Dapchi. What we are saying, the government should please stop its employment of ethnic cleansing as a strategy to grab ancestral lands. Now that all its ploys have failed, I'm aware it is now advising governors, coercing them to try to draw up grazing routes. You see, the government's fascination with land is the reason for this. The problem between the Fulani and the Dogon in Mali, in the ones also in Senegal, in Gambia, and the one in Nigeria, it's all about land. And we are telling President Buhari, it is not proper that you, because of your need for ancestral land, which of course, the other day, Femi Adesina said, it's better that we give up ancestral land than to die fighting to protect the land. Nigerians would not give up their land. They are emotionally attached to their land. In a lot of the places I went to, in this Hausa area,
okay, just hang on a minute.
Over Padama.
Yeah, so, Mr. Shehu, is this the case? Is this what's really going on?
That the president wants to grab land and to give land to whom? I guess the facts need to be known. This country has a grazing problem because the herders are mostly Fulani, are challenged from a lot of the places that they had practiced. The attack by desert, this encroachment by desert leading to drying up of a lot of grazing lands in the northernmost parts of the country, has put pressure on the herders who have been looking southwards, for green grass so that their cattle will eat and also have water to drink. It's a global climate change situation, which is unfortunate. Consider what has happened around Lake Chad Basin itself, drying up to only about 10% of its original size. About 40 million people, mostly fishermen and herders, had earned livelihood in all of those areas. So, and I'm glad that with the report I just saw on your screen that governors of the North Central states are coming together to say, well, let us resolve these problems of grazing, because we have to stop these herders from roaming and eating up crops all over the country. They drive their cattle into farmlands and then they eat up the crops, and the farmers fight back and the killings follow. This country cannot continue in this way. But the president has no plan, has no wish for land other than that which he has inherited from his father. In fact, some of it has even donated for community purpose. So I think that we need to get our facts right when we speak on some of these things.
Well, one of the things that a number of people have also queried, Mr. Shehu, is that comment that, was ascribed to you, saying that, the 43 rice farmers, well, farmers generally, there wasn't any report as to whether or not they were permitted to go to their farms. Well, a number of people also believe that maybe you were, quoted out of context. You want to clear the air on exactly what you meant by that when you said that they didn't take permission before they went to their farms.
Certainly, it was not my language, and a number of media houses have published the transcript of my interview with the BBC World. That was not my language. I could not have said that. It would have been very insensitive of anyone to have said that. But there are security issues in the northeast, particularly in Borno State. Progress has been made, a lot of it. Yobe State today has moved on. Bauchi has moved on. Gombe has moved on. Taraba, Adamawa, they have moved on. And we are hoping, we are praying for our brothers in Borno State that they too, with the support of the military and the communities, they will rid themselves of Boko Haram, and they too will move on.
What exactly did you mean? What was this comment?
As I said, I was responding to a question whether there was the entire area clear of mines and terrorist threats. And I said, to the best of my knowledge, I was unaware that this had been given. In any case, before you spoke, you would have spoken to the military on a number of these things, and you would have got their take on some of these things. But again, as I said, we are today living in the world of the new digital media. People take words that you have spoken, and then they give them their own meaning, and then they go on to slaughter you. So it's such that the one who has said nothing is the one who is safe today. And we hope that sanity will come at some point, that in the same way Europe, UK, they are sanitizing the digital space. We hope that it will one day be done in our own country as well.
I'm not particularly clear what you mean by that, but perhaps you want to clear that, but respond to this one. Is it true, is it a fact that people, farmers take permission and pay before they go to their own farms to farm and to harvest? Is it true?
No, I'm not aware of that, and it is not true, and I had never said they needed to take permission to go to the farm.
Okay, well, Mr. Ononuju, you want to respond to some of these issues that you have raised, especially, what Mr. Shehu Garba has been quoted to have said, and his response just now.
Thank you. What What Garba said was publicly reported. He's here now to try to say he was quoted out of context, that the meaning which the world came to hear as his position, it's not what he intended to say. Yes. It is also the same way with Femi Adesina, when he said that we should give up our ancestral land instead of dying fighting to keep those lands. Now, one thing I found out in all those communities I went to was the fight over land is normally in areas where you have what you call the Fadama. Fadama are wetlands. And wetlands are where, for generations, the Hausa farmer has always depended upon, because you don't have too many wetlands all over northern Nigeria. So wherever you have the Fadama, there is fight over it. If you check about the killings in Borno, it was also over a Fadama. The Fadama was so wet, they could grow rice on that farm. So it's always where you have Fadama. That's where you have these new refugees looking to take land. The historical old indigenous Fulani in Nigeria do not kill people or houses over Fadama. The people involved are the new refugees who are escaping from the war between the Dogon and the Fulani, especially in Mopsi in central Mali. What we are saying is the government should purpose the security services to treat those who kill Nigerians as terrorists. The government should stop paying to those people with staged kidnappings like in Dapchi, like I have in Kankara. This is not acceptable to Nigerians. General Buratai should reswear his allegiance and oath to the Nigerian constitution, not to President Buhari. And that's why I see all of them as complicit in this game of ethnic cleansing on land. And of course, Buhari and those who enable him responsible for ethnic cleansing in national institutions and national parastatals. So you can see it's a program driven both on land and also in national institutions and parastatals. Buhari has not stopped, and we believe that he should stop his policy of ethnic cleansing against Nigerians on land, as I have stated now. I've been saying this for a very long time. I actually came back from Katsina yesterday, where we went to talk to the people one-on-one. And then I started meeting the children who say no. They were told to say that on the video, they were being held by Abu Shakau's people. As they are back in Kankara, they tell no, they are not, that's what they were told. But then, blah, 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 they are bandits. And that's why I asked Garba Shehu, why wouldn't you tell your boss, President Buhari, to please earmark these bandits as terrorists? If people in the East who are agitating peacefully for a new country are being banded as terrorists because of the rhetoric that they're bandied about, what about those who take weapons to kill Nigerians, who engage in ethnic cleansing against people from ancestral lands?
Let's get him to respond to that.
These people, despite being paid money.
Okay, let's get Mr. Shehu, could you respond to that?
As far as Katsina,
Mr. Ononuju, just hold on a minute. Mr. Shehu, do you want to respond to that?
Constantly for daring going back to their...
Just hold on, Mr. Ononuju. Let Mr. Shehu respond to what you've just raised now. Just hang on. Mr. Shehu, please go ahead.
Let me. I really don't want to be dragged into this, level of the discussion. But, however, I must say that grab land for whom? When the Global Terrorism Index reported in 2014 that 1,200 Nigerians had been killed in fight between farmers and the farmers, was President Buhari in power? So Mr. Jonathan was in power then. So Mr. Jonathan, was he trying to also take land? When Boko Haram burnt down 20 schools, throwing out more than 10,000 children in Maiduguri out of school before 2015. Was it President Buhari who was facilitating all of these things? When the country's economy lost more than 14 trillion US dollars, 3 years to the run up to 2015 election, arising from fight between herders and farmers and the terrorism. So were they gaining? It was his own political party that was in charge. These are not things that we would like to talk about. They are not good for our country. They should not have happened. But I think that we should speak to facts and stick to them instead of,
So-
theorizing. At some point he was saying land grab, and then farmers had us, Fulani want to take this land from farmers. And at some point he's saying it is aliens, people from Mali and, who are coming in as. So I think that we should stick to the facts and will be more and better respected.
Oh, does the government have information? Can you tell us, have they been able to identify who are these people doing these things, these killings?
I think that research, and I've read quite a number of, especially some sociologists from ABU had done this thing with the Fulani and the farmers. It is clear that what is happening in the northeast, Boko Haram terrorism is different from much of what is going on in the northwest, because these are bandits who operate in the forest and who seize people and the cattle in order to make money. Of course, they kill, they take life, and then they rape and they plunder. But these are criminal gangs that have taken to unoccupied spaces, and then they are wreaking this havoc from those safe havens, I will call them, because in a way, there are methods for dealing with this situation, and societies make choices. Force can be used, and there are communities that choose to say, well, they would accommodate, they will sit down and talk to them in the belief that they would convert them into new beliefs, respect for human life and all of these things.
In the first term of the president, there were some ministers, even ministers of state at that time, who did say, I think when they were with the National Assembly, that some of these people carrying out those attacks were Fulani fighters from different parts of Africa. Has that changed?
Not much, because the thing is that our expansive boundaries are talking about 4,000 kilometers, Sokoto to that end of Lake Chad, and all of that can hardly be physically manned, although digital technology is now being employed. ECOWAS treaty permits free movement of men and animals across all state boundaries. There are concerns from Nigeria, and I know that our Minister of Interior is working on a plan to see if ECOWAS would really change this aspect of the charter, so that nations have responsibility for their people, and we're able to control the influx that is harmful to our security.
Mr. Shehu, what you just said now could raise certain questions on a number of people. When you say, of course, the ECOWAS Treaty says, it permits the free movement of all kinds of nationals into, each other's countries, willy-nilly. But then that also raises questions about whether or not we have had Fulani, people of Fulani and other, extractions come into Nigeria willy-nilly without any check or balance whatsoever. Is that what you're saying?
Well, when they come through those border posts that are manned, checks can be made. When they cross in from
one moment, Mr. Shehu,
border that
a
are not
good
manned.
number of times last Friday we had a conversation with the PRO of Customs Service, who was also saying that to a large extent they are unable to check these people because people would rather give information to other people than to give it to them. So if we are saying that we are having these foreigners coming to Nigeria unchecked, we definitely have a much bigger problem on our hands. You will also remember what the governor of Kano, had said, that a good number of the Almajiris in Nigeria are not Nigerians. So that begs a lot of questions as to what you are saying now about how precarious our security situation is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is why, the president considered the closure of the border for all this land border for much of this time until they were reopened a week or so ago. Because the thing is that this country has been talking to our neighbors, asking them that they cooperate with us in order to stop this influx of bandits, of weapons, of drugs, and the trafficking of Nigerian women. And the cooperation had not measured up to the expectation of the president. And this is why he was forced by the necessity of the situation to shut down the borders. And now we are reopening in the hope that the agreements we struck with them, that they will work hand in hand with our own security, with our own customs, on a trial basis, because not all the entry points have been reopened. It will be tried. If it works well, then others will be reopened. If there is trouble, then the government may have a rethink. So, but it is the technical committee that will advise the government on how well things are working now that we have reopened 4 points out of the numerous that we have.
Well, Mr. Shehu, one of the things that we heard last week on this program was from Jamilu Aliyu, who is one of those people who organized that protest that was to hold on the day the Kankara boys were released. One of the things that he said to us was that people carrying AK-47 slung on their shoulders walk around the city of Kankara and the environs, go to the markets, price goods, buy goods, and take them away with their guns on their shoulders, and no one stops them. Are you aware that this is happening?
I don't live in those places. I'm not aware that it is happening. What I know is that the military, the country's military, is truly overstretched. They are active in 34 of the country's 36 states, and in need of more people. The governor of Katsina recently only asked for additional troops in his state and all of that. So we need to do more procurements in order to ensure that all parts of the country are sufficiently covered. However, this country also has a problem because when communities embrace criminals, they make choices that they will regret, because there are instances where the military, this country's military, has been exposed to danger by leakage of information from communities that they ought to be protecting. There's the need for a lot of reorientation to be done, because unless we do that, we see security as being the responsibility for each and every citizen of this country. It's not for the police or President Muhammadu Buhari, who sits in Asorok.
Okay, well, Mr.
Shehu,
Shehu,
things right.
Yes, let's take the response of Mr. Ononuju on this just before we take a break. Mr. Ononuju, how do you respond?
Yes, he is right. When the communities decide to give information to the criminals, and talking about that community, the community of recently reintegrated Boko Haram activists into the Nigerian army are the ones that Senator Ndume, chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, said provided the information to the Boko Haram to attack our army. And that's why you see President Buhari's policy of being soft. At the times when Shehu was talking about when those things occurred, while PDP was in power, who did the terrorists call to become their negotiator? It was President Buhari. When Buhari now took power, what did he do? He sought to take lands all across Nigeria for him to create Fulani settlements. And we said no. He now talked about Ruga, talked about Grazing Reserve, cow colony. All those things were simply as a strategy to change demographics and create massive settlements all over for these same refugees who are flooding into Nigeria. Go make a research. There are no Fulanis in Nigeria of Nigerian origin demanding to be deported from their states to bushes or communities where hostility from the local indigenous landowners.
Just hold your train of thought at that point. When we return, you'll conclude your train of thoughts before we end the show in just a moment. Stay with us. It's our concluding moments now. So, Mr. Ononuju, quickly go ahead and conclude your thoughts.
Yes, as I was saying, the government came in and were demanding for land all over Nigeria. We refused to give them the land. I, on this station, suggested that President Buhari should rather work in alliance with other leaders in the sub-region to bring an implementation of the 2015 peace agreement in Mali to fruition. So that way you can keep the refugees back in their places instead of them coming here. Because why? If you don't solve Mali as a dam, when it bursts, the flooding will affect the entire sub-region. And that's what you're seeing right now. So why has he not allowed the service chiefs to go after these terrorists? Why has Buhari not called those people terrorists? Because these bandits are clusters of terrorists with no ideology. All they do is kidnap, and the kidnappings are for ransom, and the other thing they do is keep land. Who are the people now keep staying those lands? I went and I saw clusters of new refugee arrivals who are not Nigerians on the land. But when the owners, the Nigerians, come back to their lands, Garba Shehu will say they have no permission, they have no clearance to go back to the land. And when you ask him here, he will say that his words have been taken and have been weaponized against him. That's nothing wrong. That's why I would like to tell him.
Let's get him to respond so that we can wind down. Mr. Shehu, go ahead, please.
Well, my advice to Dr. Katch as one of the leaders of the country, I think that, there's a huge scramble going on all over the world now for the cyberspace, the issues of storage of big data in the cyberspace. And before you know it, we will wake up one day, having fought one another to death over land space. We find that the cyberspace has also been shared out and we have been recolonized all over again. I think that this country needs to look focused and look forward, to progressive ideas so that we are able to, take our people, lift them out of poverty and by growing our own economy and achieving national development.
One more quick thing, Mr. Shehu. While you were responding to one of the issues, you did say that some things on the social media and the government was coming to it in terms of information being put out. Were you referring to a plan to reintroduce or revisit the social media bill?
Yes. It's been the government's game.
I mean, sorry, Mr. Ononuju. Sorry, Mr. Ononuju. That's what Mr. Shehu actually, because he mentioned it.
Okay, sorry. Yes,
I'm not aware that there's a plan to reintroduce the social media bill. However, when you see what is going on, in fact, UK last week has planned a new legislation for social media regulation to protect vulnerable groups, women, children, and minorities. And all these technology companies are being heavily fined by European and countries for excesses, whether on Twitter or Facebook or WhatsApp. We in this country are sitting helplessly being assailed by there are good things, yes, we have always said about the digital and social media. Those things that hurt, those that are harming minorities, women and children, they are left unattended to. And I hope that the day will come when there will be a consensus involving all stakeholders that there must be regulation in this.
All right, gentlemen.
We can't continue like this.
Well, thank you both for talking to us today, Mr. Garba, Shehu, and Mr. Katch Ononuju. Thank you for coming on today. All right. Yeah.
Thank you. Very quickly, some of your own contribution to the program this morning. This first tweet is from Yoju Uwala, who says President Buhari took over power in 2015 because of insecurity facing the nation. Why should the same issue be facing us now when he's promised to do something?
Musa Muhammad says, I'm not a fan of this administration, but when people paint narratives of ethnic cleansing, it's just pulling Nigeria apart and more. Sorry, putting Nigeria apart the more. And I'm sure even the opposition party will do the same if they are not in power. We have to find a way to be united, else nothing will work. I think he was referring to, he spoke about land.
Yes.
Specifically with land.
Yeah, Professor Enakana says here, until we build stronger institutions that guarantee the continuation of government policies, successive governments will continue to embark on jaded economic policies that do not impact positively on the lives of Nigerians. To fix Nigeria, we must fix power and security.
There you go. Thank you all for your comments. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day and do keep safe.